Hey, crime connoisseurs. If you're like me, you love diving into a good book. I especially love finding a book about cases we cover. But sometimes it's hard to find the time to sit and read. We live in an on-the-go society. Thankfully, Audible makes it easy to instantly access the books we love without sacrificing our time. With over 180,000 audiobooks and more, you will undoubtedly find one that will grip you and leave you not wanting to pull away while still being able to do other things. You can get a free 30-day trial membership by going to audibletrial.com/ccpod to start listening to your favorite books. That's audibletrial.com/ccpod for your free 30-day trial membership. Hey, all my fellow crime connoisseurs. I'm your host, Grace D. Today's case will contain topics that may be triggering for some. Talks of domestic violence, sexual abuse, and rape will be discussed, just to give you all a warning. In the late 80s and early 90s, bodybuilding was all the rage. Things were even more interesting when two bodybuilders started seeing each other and eventually got married. The love of muscles and competition shows quickly took another turn. One fateful Valentine's Day night, so many lives would change. This is the case of the Pumped Up Princess and Mr. California. Sally McNeil was born September 30th, 1960, in Allentown, Pennsylvania. Sally grew up in a violent household. Her father was a raging alcoholic and physically abusive to her mother. Sally had two sisters, Kimberly and Michelle, and one older brother, Michael. When Sally was 3 years old, her mother remarried and had two more children with him, Judy and Jill. Her stepfather treated Sally and her full siblings differently than his kids. Sally's stepfather would also physically abuse her. She grew up thinking abuse in the household was the norm. When Sally was in high school, she was a top athlete. She joined the boys' cross-country team and was the only one from her team to have placed for the nationals. She also was on the swimming and diving team as well as the track and field teams. After high school, Sally went off to college in hopes of becoming a gym teacher. And with just one semester left, she ran out of money for school. She asked her folks to help with the funds so she could finish her bachelor's degree, but they refused. With that, Sally dropped out and did not complete her degree. After this, Sally joined the Marine Corps like her brother and uncle. While stationed at Parris Island, Sally met her first husband, Anthony Loden, in the Marine Corps. Their relationship started out great, but things became abusive shortly after they married. They married for 4 years and had two children, Shantina and John. Sally filed for separation and relocated to Camp Pendleton in California, close to San Diego. Sally obtained full custody of her kids and left for Camp Pendleton. While serving her time there, Sally got into bodybuilding. She started bodybuilding as a way to protect herself. Sally was a sergeant in the Marine Corps and decided to enter into a bodybuilding competition. While in the gym training, she had baggy sweats on, and another sergeant said to her, "You know it's more than just a bikini contest, right?" She said, "I know," and then took off her sweats and shocked them all. He said, "Damn, I didn't know that's what you were working with." Sally competed in her first bodybuilding competition on February 14th, 1987, and took 4th place in the U.S. Armed Services Physique Championships. A friend of Sally's showed Ray McNeil her photos from the competition, and Ray wanted to meet Sally. Ray was born on December 17, 1964, in North Carolina. At 2 weeks old, Ray's mom gave him up, and he was taken in by his aunt, and they lived in poverty. Ray confided in Sally about the abuse that he suffered as a child. He told Sally how the boy that his aunt had living with them at the house had sexually attacked him and forced him to perform oral sex on him. Ray was also a sergeant in the Marine Corps who had just returned from serving overseas in Okinawa, Japan. Ray was big into bodybuilding, and the two became inseparable. Ray and Sally started dating, and she quickly fell in love with him, hoping that he'd be the stepdad to her 2 kids. Not long after 2 months, the two got married. The newly formed family eventually got an apartment off base in Oceanside, California. Shortly after their marriage began, the abuse in the household started. Sally and Ray often fought, and things got physical between them. Ray punched Sally in the face 3 days after their wedding and busted her lip. Ray apologized and said he wouldn't do it again, and she believed him. The first time that Ray had choked Sally, she thought that she was going to die. After Ray would beat Sally, he would bring her flowers and candy and say that he would change, but he never did. Sally would tell Shantina that Ray would change because she genuinely believed and hoped that he would. Sadly, it only ever got worse. The night Ray broke Sally's nose, Shantina was so scared, she ran out of the house screaming, "Let me out, let me out." Sally reported the incident to her first sergeant, who sent her to medical. She told them, "My husband punched me in the face." They took the report and took Ray into the brig, but then they released him. Ray was so mad that he beat Sally into oblivion when he came home so she would drop the charges. Sally's first sergeant was upset about this and asked why she dropped the charges. And Sally thought to herself, why did you guys let him go? What else could she do? He was a big man, and she just got used to a certain level of violence. In 1990, Sally and Ray competed in the U.S. Armed Services Physique Championships. Sally had taken first place for the women, and Ray took first place for the men. They were the first ever husband and wife to win separate individual events. The pair were on their way to making their way into the bodybuilding world. Their successes were fueled by steroids that they had purchased in Tijuana. Often, when Sally would go down, she'd have the kids with her, something that Sally wasn't proud of. Ray left the Marines in 1991 to focus on bodybuilding. He wanted to turn pro and to win Mr. Olympia. That same year, Ray competed in the California Championships, NPC, and took first place in heavyweight and even became the overall winner, earning him the title of Mr. California. As Ray pursued his professional bodybuilding career, the cost of a steroid regimen became more challenging to maintain. Sally started making her way into the wrestling community. Bill Wick approached Sally and asked if she would be interested in wrestling for him in videos. The videos were considered muscle worshiping and were basically muscle prostitution. The videos served to satisfy some men's desire to be thrown around by a strong woman. She began wrestling clients on beds, and Bill taught her how to wrestle for the home movies. Bill paid Sally $50 per hour. Then she started wrestling for other people, making good money. Ray was okay with this because of the money. He didn't work since he was focused on his bodybuilding career, and Sally was the primary breadwinner. She thought, why let these men exploit me when I can exploit myself and make money off the videos? So, Sally started her own business and called it Top Secret Video Production. In 1993, Sally left the Marine Corps after serving 11 years. In Sally's best year of competition, she placed 5th in the USA. She was proud of that, but it was an amateur show, and Sally would have liked to have turned pro. It would have been an excellent way to make a living. But she was making more money in the wrestling community than the professional bodybuilders were in bodybuilding. According to Sally's interview in the Netflix docuseries Killer Sally, I made a great living being a female bodybuilder in the 90s. But the money that the women bodybuilders made was significantly lower than what the men were making, because the Mr. Olympia could walk away with about $150,000. My first win was $27,000. It was also challenging for women to get the same coverage as men. It wasn't the same seeing muscular women the same way as men. It just didn't bring the same attention. For Sally, the money outweighed the dark side of it. $300 an hour outweighs that she's wrestling a man in an apartment, because if she wrestled 10 of them, that's $3,000. Sally said, "I was flying cross country to go to New York City, to Boston, down to Florida, down to Texas. Those were like the 3 good money-making places." In 1993, Sally spent $24,000 on Ray. Bodybuilding is an expensive hobby, unless you're winning the shows. On September 11th, 1993, the Mr. Olympia contest was held at the Atlanta Civic Center in Atlanta, Georgia, and Ray was invited to compete. Ray placed 15th. This was a big hit for Ray, and it made him angry. Ray was filled with steroids and had roid rages. Most people who knew him knew that he was a kind, gentle giant. His friends said that he did have a short fuse, so you just had to be cautious about how you approached him. Sally said that everyone thought that Ray was a nice guy, but when he was having a bad day, he'd come home and beat on her. But she wasn't telling on him, so people didn't know that. Shantina described her stepfather's personality as being that of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. And between the ages of 8 and 12 years old, she realized that something wasn't right in their household, and that Ray was very abusive to Sally. John's relationship with Ray was a very volatile one. He recalls a time when he came home from kindergarten and his smiley face pin was turned around. Ray asked him why it was like that, and he told him that it was because he got in trouble for talking. Ray walked away, and John could hear the clanking of the belt. When Ray returned with the belt in hand, he said, "Well, you're a big boy now, because you go to school. So I'm not going to spank you with my hand anymore. I'm going to spank you with this belt." Ray would beat and abuse the kids when Sally wasn't around. When Shantina and John were in trouble, Ray would make them both be present, hit the one, and make the other watch. It was torture for John to sit there and watch Ray beat the crap out of his mom and sister. John told the interviewers of Killer Sally, "I really hated him. He was literally like the devil to me." Sally always protected Ray, which she regrets and says is the big mistake. Despite the abuse, Sally loved Ray. Shantina would ask Sally why she would put up with Ray beating her. She told Sally, "He's not my father, we can leave." Sally said in the docuseries that Ray sexually abused her as well. That at times he would beat her, and he would say he wanted her to have sex with him. If she had sex with him, she'd forgive him. She says there were times that she didn't even want him to touch her, and he would rape her. Ray would say that every orifice of her body belonged to him. Each time Ray did a competition, he would use more and more steroids, and the beatings got worse. After Sally's friend was strangled to death by her boyfriend, it was eye-opening for her. Sally realized that could be her one day. Ray could kill her. Sally made plans to leave. She was planning on going back to Pennsylvania. Sally's mom was actually selling the house that she grew up in, and her mom made her an offer. Sally could move into the house if she paid $50 per week. Sally told Shantina and John to pack their bags and be ready, because they would get in the car and leave immediately for Allentown as soon as she could get the money together. On February 14th, 1995, Sally woke up and spent a fun-filled day with her family. Later that evening, Ray stepped out. The evening drew later and Ray still wasn't home, and Sally was waiting for him on the couch. Earlier, Ray called his friend DJ and asked DJ to meet him at his place. DJ showed up around 9:15 p.m., but Ray still wasn't there. DJ felt like something was off. Sally was acting funny, and DJ was on the phone with his wife. DJ tells his wife he's going to get off the phone and go get something to eat. Sally stood in front of the door and said to him, "You need to stay." DJ asked her why he needed to stay and told her that he would be right back. He thought Sally knew Ray would be home any minute and wanted him around since when DJ was around, things were calmer between the couple. DJ said, "I promise you, Sal, I'll be right back. I'm going." She said, "You're coming right back?" And he said, "I'm coming right back." Sally thought maybe Ray was down at McCabe's, a local bar. So she decided to get dressed, do her makeup, and head down there to meet him to celebrate Valentine's Day. She was going to ask her neighbor if they could watch the kids. While she was doing her makeup, Ray came home and asked her if she was going somewhere, and she explained what her game plan was. An argument ensued after this. At this point, Ray was 3 days out from a competition and loaded with several different steroids, and given past experiences, he was more short-fused than usual. Sally told Ray that he looked like crap and wouldn't place in the competition. She also believed that Ray was cheating on her and confronted him about it. Ray said that he went out to get chicken, and while he did come home with chicken, Ray's usual place closed at 8:30 and he got home closer to 10:30. Around 10:40 p.m., a call comes in to the 911 dispatch center. Uncover the secrets of your dog's DNA with Wisdom Panel, the world's leading canine genetics test. With a simple cheek swab, Wisdom Panel can reveal your dog's breed, ancestry, health traits, and so much more. Understanding your dog's genetic background can help you provide the best care possible. Whether it's identifying potential health risks, understanding their behavior, or simply satisfying your curiosity about your dog's unique heritage, Wisdom Panel delivers the insights you need. Their state-of-the-art technology analyzes over 350 breeds, types, and varieties, and screens for over 200 genetic health conditions. Plus, their easy-to-understand reports make it simple to learn about your dog's genetics. Join the millions of pet parents discovering their dog's story with Wisdom Panel. Order your kit today and start exploring your dog's DNA. Because every dog has a tale, and Wisdom Panel helps you tell it. Go to wisdompanel.pxf.io/ccpod to learn more about your four-legged friend. That's wisdompanel.pxf.io/ccpod.
911. I just shot my husband because he just beat me up.
You shot your husband?
Yes, I'm at 1802 South Tremont.
Who's crying in the background?
My daughter.
Okay, is he dead?
He's shot.
Okay, what's your name?
My name is Sally McNeil. Don't put the doors on, Tina.
How old is you?
You beat me up.
Ma'am,
I just got beat up.
how old is your husband?
My husband is 30 years old. Oh, my God.
Is he breathing?
Yes.
He is breathing?
Yes, he is.
Is he conscious?
Yes. Just hold on.
Where's the gun at?
By the time DJ got his food and made his way back, he had spotted the helicopter. He pulled back up to the apartment complex and saw all the police. When he got out of his car and started making his way over, he saw Sally talking with the police. And then he saw the children. They looked terrified. When police and medics arrived, Ray was found on his hands and knees, bleeding profusely, but still alive and speaking. The police asked Ray if he choked Sally since that's what she told them, and he denied it. Ray was secured and rushed to the hospital. Ray had suffered a gunshot wound to the abdomen and another to his face. His upper jaw was shattered, and there was a large hole in his torso with his liver protruding out. Sally handed the gun to her neighbor and told him what happened and called 911. According to an article from Fox News, in the background of the 911 call, Ray can be heard asking why Sally shot him, to which she replied, "I told you, I'm not taking your shit anymore." The police took Sally in one car, and Shantina and John were placed in a separate one and taken down to the police station. Sally was separated from the kids and questioned by the police. She willingly talked to the police about what happened without an attorney. They asked Sally to walk them through what had happened and what led to her shooting Ray. Sally told the police how they had gotten into an argument over Ray getting home so late on Valentine's Day and questioning where he was, and then things got violent. She told them that Ray had gotten physical with her. He pushed her to the floor and then he choked her. She claimed that she fought back to escape and made it to their bedroom. In the bedroom, Sally kept a sawed-off shotgun. She grabbed the gun and 2 shells, but only loaded 1 before leaving the bedroom. Ray was in the kitchen cooking the chicken. Sally said Ray turned around and advanced at her, and she shot him in the abdomen. She claimed Ray made his way towards her when she loaded the 2nd shell and fired again in fear for her life. During the questioning, Sally almost seemed relieved in the videos. She talked with the police for hours, giving details, and was animated in her recount of the night, and showed little remorse for Ray. It wasn't until the female detective told her that she hadn't asked how Ray was doing, and then proceeded to tell Sally that Ray had died at the hospital. Sally immediately puts her head down, starts to cry, then says, "I murdered him." The male detective informs her that now that Ray has died, the circumstances have changed, and she's going to go to jail, and she's being charged with murder. Then she asks for an attorney. They let Sally see her kids to explain what will happen to them. She tells them that she will be going to jail for what she did to Daddy. She also tells them that they will be going with her mom or one of her sisters back to Allentown, Pennsylvania. But before that, they have to go to a home with a group of kids since her family won't be able to make it out right away. Shantina becomes very visibly upset from what you can see in the police videos. She's sobbing hard and almost inconsolable. Meanwhile, John seems to be taking it all in and not as emotional, almost like he's in shock. At one point, Shantina says, "But he was a bad man." And John says, "Remember that the police officer said if you thought he was going to kill you, that was self-defense." The kids didn't want to leave Sally. Shantina was still highly upset and refusing to leave, saying, "I'm not going." Sally was appointed William Raffel as her criminal defense attorney. Bill had been a criminal defender for 15 years and tried many murder cases before Sally's. Sally's case would be different. Sally wasn't your average mom or housewife. She was a bodybuilder, strong. Given Sally's background and physical appearance, she didn't fit the mold of a woman who would look like a battered woman. In today's age, we know this to be crap because an abuse victim can be anyone. But in the 90s, it was a whole lot different the way that things were perceived. While Sally was in jail awaiting her bail hearing, Raffel told Sally not to lift any weights and that they would remove her shoulder pads to make her look less bulky. Appearance would play a huge factor in this case. Deputy District Attorney Daniel Goldman was the lead prosecutor in Sally's case. Goldman prosecuted many high-profile homicides before Sally's and was a shark. He presented Sally as this violent woman who killed her husband in cold blood. So much so that he requested her bail be set at $1 million. Raffel argued that Sally was a woman who had been abused and suffered from battered woman syndrome. Sally pled self-defense, claiming she feared for her life while Ray was choking her. The judge took it all in and set bail at $100,000. The bodybuilding community turned their backs on Sally, but the wrestling community stuck beside her. The community raised the money for her bail, which she was very grateful for. The men she wrestled with and did the home movies with had mailed her in the money, and she was able to make bail. The trial was set to begin on February 14th, 1996, exactly 1 year after the horrific night. During the trial, Goldman claimed that Sally murdered Ray because she knew he was about to leave her and for the insurance money. He even presented evidence of Sally's aggression and a pattern of violence. He told the jury and showed them photos and videos of Sally's bodybuilding experience and the home wrestling movies, portraying her as a strong woman able to take down a man. In 1990, Sally was arrested for pointing a gun at her ex-husband, Anthony Loden. A few days after this, a fight ensued between Sally and Ray, and she dropped a dumbbell on his car from the balcony while he was in it. Another example Goldman presented to the jury was how Sally attacked a woman at a bodybuilding competition after suspecting that she had an affair with Ray. Sally grabbed the woman by the hair, yanked her down to the ground, and started repeatedly punching this woman in the face, yelling, "You effed my husband, you effed my husband." Sally received a 1-year suspension from bodybuilding because of this. On top of that, in 1993, Sally attacked a bouncer at a bar in Pennsylvania and later threatened to kill the police officers who responded to the scene. The trial became a media circus. Rafael advised Sally not to speak with the media, and she complied. So, without them hearing from Sally, they rolled with the information they were given from the prosecution. The media dubbed her the pumped-up princess and the brawny bride. Diane Dimond even said in one of her hard copy episodes, instead of pumping iron, she was pumping her husband full of lead. Sally regretted not talking with the media and them only having one side of things. The prosecution had an expert testify that the fingernail marks on Sally's neck were possibly self-inflicted, since Ray's nails were too short and did not have her DNA underneath of them. Goldman contended that the shooting was not in self-defense because an expended shell casing was found in the bedroom, contradicting Sally's recount of events in her initial statement. Goldman painted a picture for the jury of how Sally shot Ray while he was in the kitchen cooking chicken. She then went back into their bedroom, loaded the second round, came back out, and shot Ray again, this time in the face. Sally said she never re-entered the bedroom after the first shot and had the second shell in her hand the entire time. In the interview with Killer Sally, DJ admitted that Ray had been having an affair. It was with a woman named Marianne Myers, also a Gold's Gym member. Ray told DJ that he was going to tell Sally he was leaving her for Marianne. DJ told him not to because he thought Sally would shoot him with their shotgun. According to DJ, Ray simply laughed it off and said, "Yeah." The interviewer in the docuseries asked Sally if she was ever afraid of Ray using the shotgun on her. Sally replied, "It never occurred to me because he didn't need a weapon. He was a weapon." The most damning pieces of evidence in the case were the crime scene photos. The photos told a different story than what Sally had been telling. You see, Sally has always stated that she fired the second shot because Ray came at her. Photos from the crime scene showed the massive blood pool from where Ray went down. On top of that, when examining the lamp on the end table near Ray's body, there was blood splatter inside the lampshade, indicating that Ray was on the ground when the second shot to his face was fired. This helped convince the jury that she wasn't in immediate danger from Ray at that time. There weren't many witnesses who could testify on Sally's behalf. Sally would keep the beatings to herself for the most part. Aside from her children, she had one friend who could testify on her behalf. This was because one day her friend Peggy Hook saw the bruises and the marks on Sally, and she told her friend everything. Peggy testified to seeing Sally's broken nose and even a broken arm. She admitted that Sally wouldn't tell anyone. Sally told her only because she had seen the markings and the breaks and questioned her about them. During the trial, Rafael put Shantina on the stand as a witness for her mom. Shantina broke down crying several times when talking about the abuse she witnessed and experienced at the hands of Ray. When Goldman asked her how she knew Ray was choking Sally on that Valentine's Day night, Shantina said she could hear her mom. She said, "Well, when my dad does choke my mom, these are the noises she makes." Shantina imitated the noises she had experienced many times from seeing it happen and hearing it be done. Shantina said that she would sometimes bang on the door trying to get him to stop and get him off of her. Rafael asked the judge to dismiss Shantina because she became so emotional during both direct and cross-examination. The judge agreed and allowed Shantina to step down. John wanted to take the stand and tell about his experience as well, but since John was 2 years younger than Shantina and she had a difficult time, Rafael opted against it. John was upset by this and said that he would have been able to handle it and not cry. After witnessing Shantina, Sally decided to take the stand in her own defense against her attorney's wishes. Rafael says that he can recount only 2 times out of well over 100 criminal jury trials he thought a client testifying wouldn't hurt their case, and Sally was not one of them. Sally took the stand and became rigid. Her responses were military-like, short, yes, sir, no, sir. Goldman had a feeling Sally would respond this way, given her time in the military and her upbringing. He asked her questions in a way that had her admit things in a yes or no response with no explanation. There had been physical evidence that the judge excluded from the case as having no significance to the case. The only way that could be brought into evidence was if the defense opened that door for it, and unfortunately for Sally, she walked right into this with Goldman. Things that were previously excluded had now made their way into the trial. After 3 days of deliberation, the jury had reached its verdict. On the count of murder in the first degree, the jury found her not guilty. On the count of murder in the second degree, the jury found Sally Marie McNeil guilty. Sally was sentenced to serve 19 years to life in prison. While serving her time, Sally's mom would fly out every July to bring the kids to visit their mom during summer vacation. At one point, Shantina and John decided to stop going out to see Sally. Shantina described how telling her friends that she'd be going to California to visit her mom in prison was hard. She hated telling people how Sally was in prison. While Sally was in prison, John and Shantina had little communication with her. So where are they now? Well, Shantina received her degree in electric and electrical engineering. She also joined the U.S. Army and served for 16 years. Shantina suffered from PTSD between the combat overseas, her traumatic childhood, and going through a physically abusive relationship herself. Shantina was in an abusive relationship for 3 years while overseas, but no one in her command knew. She kept it from everyone until finally being able to break things off and free herself from the abuse. Unfortunately, Shantina now knew how difficult it was to leave an abusive environment, especially with a child. She was fortunate enough to leave with her son safely. After her time in the Army, Shantina went on to work for an aerospace and defense technology company. She now works as an IT administrator for Defense Logistics Agency. She resides in Georgia with her son. John also joined the military. He served 5 tours in Afghanistan, and like his sister, he too suffered from PTSD from the combat overseas and their childhood. John also suffers from drug addiction, which started after he returned home from his final tour. John credits his wife with helping him through all of this, saying that he was awful to her and she didn't deserve it. John sought and received treatment for both the drug addiction and PTSD. John now resides in Texas with his family. Since Sally's trial, and the more knowledge and education we have about domestic violence and how anyone can be a victim, Diane Dimond told the interviewer with Killer Sally, "I just feel badly that we, the media, me included, didn't delve more into who was Sally McNeil. Who was she really, past the greased-up muscles and steroids? We didn't do that then. If I could meet her, I might apologize to her for that." In 2003, Sally filed for an appeal, and the Ninth Circuit Court of the Appeals sided with her. However, the state of California took the fight further to the U.S. Supreme Court, which reversed the appeals court ruling. On March 29, 2005, the appeals court reinstated Sally's conviction based on the High Court's opinion. From 2011 to May 29, 2020, Sally underwent 5 different parole hearings. On May 29, 2020, Sally was granted parole by the California Department of Corrections and Rehabilitation. Sally McNeil served her time at the Central California Women's Facility and after serving 25 years, walked out of prison as a free woman. Upon her release, Sally was granted a home by the Veterans Transition Services. She lived at the Veterans Transitional Center, the VTC, when she first got out. Sally got a job in a warehouse and started making a living for herself back into society. The last time that Shantina saw Sally was in 2004. After 16 years, Shantina went out to California to see Sally, and Sally got to meet her grandson for the first time. Sally started seeing a man named Norfleet Stewart. The two met at their VTC support group meetings. After 10 months of dating, the couple got engaged. 6 months later, in June 2022, Sally and Norfleet wed. Shantina and John were both at the wedding, and John walked Sally down the aisle, giving her away. Sally and Norfleet purchased a home in Northern California and still reside there. Sally was subjected to abuse throughout her life, from her stepfather to her first husband to Ray. Both of Sally's children have stated over and over again about the domestic violence they witnessed from Ray towards their mother and the abuse they received from him themselves. If you or someone you know is experiencing domestic violence, no options are available to you. You can call the national hotline at 1-800-799-SAFE. That's 1-800-799-7233. Visit fadv.org for helpful information and resources. While they're based out of Salt Lake City, Utah, the people behind this organization are incredible. I have had the pleasure and privilege of working with them to help those in need and went through their advocacy training program. And that's the case of Sally, the Pumped Up Princess, and Ray, Mr. California McNeil. Be sure to download and subscribe to Crime Connoisseurs wherever you get your podcasts. You can follow us on Instagram at Crime Connoisseurs. In the meantime, keep it classy, connoisseurs, and I'll catch you on the next case. Are you tired of settling for subpar cat food? It's time to upgrade your cat's dining experience with Smalls, the ultimate gourmet meal for your feline companion. Say goodbye to generic one-size-fits-all cat food. With Smalls, you can rest assured that your furry friend is getting the nutrition they deserve. Join the thousands of cat owners who have made the switch to Smalls and see the difference it can make in your cat's health and happiness. Treat your cat to the finest dining experience with Smalls. Visit smalls.sjv.io/ccpod now to order your first box. That's smalls.sjv.io/ccpod. Choose Smalls because your cat deserves the best.